On the day of the wedding, everyone expected Iqra to become the billionaire's trophy wife. His family mocked her simple dress, her quiet smile, and her humble background. But when the ceremony ended, the billionaire stood before hundreds of guests and revealed a secret that made the entire hall fall silent. Iqra was not the woman who needed saving. She was the woman who had once saved his life. In that moment, tears filled his mother's eyes, and the family realized they had judged the wrong person. Richard Hale, a 60-year-old billionaire, arrived at a small charity hospital after a severe accident. While doctors rushed around him, a young volunteer named Iqra stayed by his side. She held his hand and spoke calmly, helping him through the frightening night. Richard never forgot her kindness, even after he recovered and returned to his luxurious world. Months later, Richard learned that Iqra worked 2 jobs to support her younger siblings. Despite her struggles, she continued volunteering at the hospital. He admired her strength and humility. Their conversations grew longer, and he discovered that she dreamed of helping abandoned children. Unlike many people around him, she never asked for money or favors. Richard invited Iqra to lunch to thank her properly. She hesitated, worried about entering a world so different from her own. During the meal, she spoke honestly about poverty, responsibility, and hope. Richard was deeply moved. For the first time in years, he felt someone was speaking to him as a human being, not as a billionaire. As weeks passed, Richard found himself seeking Iqra's advice. She encouraged him to reconnect with his estranged daughter and spend less time chasing business deals. Her words carried wisdom beyond her age. Richard realized that Iqra brought peace into his life, something wealth had never been able to buy. When Richard announced that he intended to marry Iqra, his family reacted with shock. His brother accused her of being a gold digger. His nieces laughed at her modest background. Even his mother feared that Iqra wanted control of the family fortune. Only Richard's daughter remained silent, watching Iqra carefully. Iqra offered to step away from the relationship to protect Richard from family conflict. But he refused. He told her that true love was not measured by age, status, or money. He had spent decades surrounded by luxury and loneliness. With Iqra, he had finally found honesty and warmth. Preparations for the wedding began. The Hale family hired expensive designers and decorators, but Iqra requested a simple ceremony. She wanted the budget reduced so part of the money could be donated to a children's shelter. The family mocked the idea, believing she was pretending to be humble. On the morning of the wedding, Iqra arrived wearing an elegant but simple gown. Some guests whispered that she looked too ordinary for a billionaire's bride. Richard, however, could not take his eyes off her. To him, she looked more beautiful than anyone he had ever seen. During the ceremony, Richard's brother muttered that the marriage would not last. Several relatives exchanged sarcastic smiles. Iqra heard their comments but remained calm. She focused on Richard, whose hands trembled with emotion as he prepared to say his vows. Richard promised to honor the woman who had stood beside him when he was vulnerable and afraid. His voice broke as he spoke. Many guests assumed he was simply emotional because of his age. They still did not know the real story behind their relationship. After the vows, Richard asked everyone to remain seated. He took a deep breath and requested that a video be played on the large screen behind the stage. The hall grew quiet. His family looked confused, wondering what surprise he had planned. The video showed security footage from the night of Richard's accident. It captured a young volunteer refusing to leave his bedside for hours. That volunteer was Iqra. Guests watched as she comforted him while doctors worked to save his life. Richard explained that he had been terrified that night. Business partners had abandoned him, and even some relatives had not arrived until the next morning. Iqra, a complete stranger, had stayed with him without expecting anything in return. His mother lowered her head as tears formed in her eyes. She realized she had judged Iqra without knowing her character. Richard's brother looked away, unable to meet anyone's gaze. The atmosphere in the hall changed completely. Richard then made a second announcement. Instead of adding Iqra to a complicated inheritance plan, he had already established a charitable foundation in both their names. The foundation would support orphaned and abandoned children around the world. Iqra was shocked. She had not known about the foundation. Richard smiled and said that she had inspired him to use his wealth for something meaningful. The guests began applauding softly, and the applause quickly grew louder as Richard's daughter approached Iqra and hugged her. She confessed that she had doubted her at first but had seen genuine kindness in her actions. The moment touched many guests, including members of the family who had previously been hostile. During the reception, Iqra spent more time talking to the catering staff and cleaners than posing for photographs. She thanked each worker personally. Several employees later said they had never seen a billionaire's bride treat them with such respect. Richard's mother finally approached Iqra. With trembling hands, she apologized for her harsh assumptions. Iqra gently took her hands and said that families often fear what they do not understand. The older woman began crying openly. Later that evening, a reporter asked Iqra how it felt to marry one of the world's richest men. She answered, "I did not marry a fortune. I married a man who chose compassion over pride." Her response spread quickly across social media. In the months that followed, the foundation opened its first children's center. Richard personally attended the opening ceremony, while Iqra organized educational programs. The couple worked side by side, proving that their marriage was built on shared values. Some business associates warned Richard that charity would reduce his profits. He surprised them by saying that the greatest return on investment was changing a child's future. Iqra smiled proudly beside him. Richard's brother eventually visited one of the foundation centers. He saw children receiving food, education, and medical care. For the first time, he understood why Richard loved Iqra. Shame replaced his earlier arrogance. One evening, Richard confessed that he feared dying before accomplishing anything meaningful. Iqra reminded him that true legacy was not measured in skyscrapers or bank accounts. It was measured in lives touched with kindness. As their story became known internationally, many people criticized the age difference. Others celebrated the couple's honesty and charitable work. Richard and Iqra ignored both praise and criticism, focusing instead on the children they were helping. A year after the wedding, the family gathered again for a foundation event. This time, no one mocked Iqra. Richard's relatives proudly introduced her to guests as the woman who had transformed their family's understanding of wealth and generosity. Richard's mother publicly thanked Iqra for bringing peace back into the family. She admitted that money had divided them for years. Iqra's presence had encouraged reconciliation, forgiveness, and renewed relationships among relatives. During a speech, Richard revealed that the happiest day of his life was not when he became a billionaire. It was the day Iqra chose to stand beside him, despite the judgment and criticism she faced from the world. Iqra looked at the audience filled with children, volunteers, and family members. She remembered the lonely hospital corridor where she had first met Richard. Neither of them could have imagined that one act of kindness would change so many lives. As the evening ended, Richard and Iqra walked hand in hand through the foundation center. Laughter from children echoed around them. The family that once opposed their marriage now supported their mission. Their story became a reminder that love is strongest when it is rooted in compassion, gratitude, and service to others. Moral of the story: people often judge others by their appearance, age, or social status, but true character is revealed through kindness and selfless actions. Wealth can buy comfort, but it cannot buy compassion, loyalty, or genuine love. A single act of kindness may change not only one life, but an entire family and countless others around the world.